Yo, what's up guys? New video revolving around Hua, which is newly added to the pool of being insanely good in SF. It's also really good in the Rift dungeon and in some of the other dungeons that are just particularly wind. But in this case, we're going to be talking about SF. How can we make SF better? I've been testing a few bit of teams and I will be showcasing you a bunch around the teams that I would recommend you to use, but also what I'm using at the moment, kind of just to test out stuff, showcase how it works, show why Hua is absolutely insane, and I highly recommend everyone to put her in your SF team. Does it make it 100% on the speed teams? No, because the moment you miss the buff block, it's still kind of ass, and that's just simply not going to change until we got an insane good buff blocker. But let's first see what I'm working with, which is going to be this team. Let me also actually write down what are the minimum things that you have to be working with. So the minimum speed is actually 150, which is slower than any of the other dungeons, which I did actually not know until we actually data mined that stuff. And the accuracy you need is only a 24 because the boss has a 39 resistance. So therefore, my slowest unit is a 155. The others don't really matter. It's just a bit faster. However, you have to keep in mind Hua actually deals damage by speed. But first of all, before anyone claims, oh, you have a free-to-play team, but those runes are not free-to-play. What the hell are even pay to win runes? Runes that I got from a rune pack? You ever think I got a rage runes from rune packs? Do you think I re-up rage runes? Like, what the hell's even that? Just farm a bit of necro, boys. It's not that hard. Yes, you can do this with a lot lower rune quality, but I'll go over that and showcase that with the sheet later on. This is just showing my absolute max just to showcase where it goes right, where it goes wrong, and that kind of stuff. So first of all, we have the Hua. I just go over the runes quickly first. As mentioned, two skills do actually scale on speed, so a little bit of speed on her is very nice. It is highly recommended to calculate the maximum amount of damage output on her with like the swap or anything like that. Damage on wind, of course, and some crit damage is less. Could maybe do something else over here, but I think crit damage less is kind of fine for her in the first place. And then that kind of set, this one is also a high set. I put the best damage set on the Hua, which I think is the best, and I'll showcase you that in a second. So just quickly gonna go over these runes. This one, you do want to deal damage on wind over here as well, and then just crit damage 3 or like additional damage by defense, but I think crit damage 3 is better. This one also, we're just working with a crit rate lead that is a 33. So because of the crit rate lead of 33, I'm also pairing everything on top of that. Do keep in mind, Hua does actually have a crit rate lead of 19 as well. So that's very usable in case you don't want to go for Ken. And I would say Ken is probably not the best way out there if you do have something else. It is probably the best if you don't have a Brandia and you want to make a speed team. But if you have a Brandia and you want to make a speed team, definitely do replace it for Brandia. But I'll showcase that more in the sheet later on. So in this case, we do have additional damage on these. I think that is the best for her in general. And in Lauren, we have a double will set with a fight set over there. And I'll talk more about double will later on as well. So what does this run consist of and why does Hua make it that much better? Well, Hua's always doing a double hit right now on the moment that she's hitting anything that is wind. So with that, if we do enough damage over here and she does an S2, she would instantly clap that mid boss, which is an insane amount of damage. She actually does more damage than the can itself. So we don't have any skills over there, therefore you go for the toad poison, and therefore we don't go for that over here. So yeah, we're looking in a pretty bad run already, and that's just the main thing with this dungeon. It's RNG rockery. Why is this team still pretty good though? Well, even though the RNG rockery is there, you have the pushback from the Lauren, the pushback from the Hua, and the moment after the first turn, like the boss will kind of take its first turn, but after that first turn of the boss, it's most likely never taking any turn anytime ever again. So that's also why I wanted to showcase this with a Ken rather than with the Brandia. I tried this with the Brandia as well, but then everything goes right, Brandia one-shots, and you don't really see the wrong runs, and I kind of want to show the wrong runs as well. In most cases, these two do actually clap the waves if they do have enough stats to them. Because if you do an S2, anything is low enough HP for the other one to S3 and that kind of stuff. So that kind of things. Let's see how much damage we do over here. Probably not enough to kill. Not enough to kill. Brandy, of course, would have one-shot the whole wave in here. And that's kind of also what I wanted to showcase. Like, okay, sure, use a Brandia if you do have a Brandia. But also, if you don't have, Crow can actually kind of do the same thing. Crow can actually one-shot from this state on if you have good enough runes. But 100%, I would say put Hua over the spot over here. And then put a Brandia on the spot of the Ken. But it's just kind of showing like, okay, if you want to go more free to play, it's definitely an option. Could you do this with a lot lower rune requirements? Yes, you absolutely can. Like the Zinc and the Gina are absolutely hella over damaging. The Hua, I would definitely recommend to put on pretty high damage as well. But the moment you're using a Brandia, which I think by now most people will kind of have, it's still pretty easy to do. So in this case, we just by the lack of a little bit of HP, not kill the thing. If we had one more debuff because you are scaling off debuffs, If you have one extra debuff, we would have done the damage, and then we're looking at the 19-second run once again with the Crow or Hua. You get it all the time. Might you ask, say, why are you not showing that right now? Well, because then I have to re-gear like freaking all units because all of them are looking on lower crit rate right now, which I just don't really feel it can be ours to do that. Like, I'd rather just show you where it kind of goes wrong than where it goes right all the time, because if it goes right all the time, this dungeon is easy in the first place anyways. But just the sheer fact of, well, being able to one-shot this whole thing, that's pretty insane. So let's see, we have an early armor break. We have 3 debuffs. You started off with the wrong skill over there. Your S2 does do a lot more damage than your S1. Does provide the slow, though. The slow does help out a fair bit, and therefore we clear over here, and that's 22 seconds. If we would have one-shot, 18 seconds. So that's the main thing we're looking at. So let's actually go into the sheet, which I think is a little bit easier to understand, and I can explain more teams at the same time, rather than just going for one team is like, yo, that is it. So core teams is always Lauren, is always Hua. The team that I'm currently running is the team where we have a Zinc over here, we have a Gina over there, and then the final hit, it comes from this thing, which is also the Ken, and then you would also go for the crit rate lead. As mentioned, it's not really what I recommend to do. I would recommend to go for this, and then the crit rate lead over there, and therefore you have to work with 81s, and then the 19 minus 15 on these two, whatever the number that is. Don't really want to do the math on it. I think that this is arguably the best team out there. But I actually do think that if you have a Cadiz, if you put Cadiz on high damage and the turn order would be made something like this, I wouldn't be surprised if this can one-shot the whole waves if you have really good runes towards you. And then I would probably go triple fight on this rather than the will set. I did have a will set on the Lauren in case things go a little bit wrong, that she can still push back and that kind of stuff, that she doesn't get stunned. It is definitely an option. Also, if you use this one, it is technically better on will than non-will, but yeah, that's definitely the thing out there. So if you have a Cadiz, I would definitely go for this, but if you don't have that, also has the higher dungeon lead, makes it easier. But if not, you're gonna go for this, this, and this, and this. That would be my main idea. Also, the only combat speed you need, 150, is very low. I was using Maximilian earlier, and with Maximilian, you highly overstack that combat speed, so it's not really recommended. What would I recommend on a Maximilian team, however? So if I were to go for a Maximilian team, I would definitely say Maximilian in the first slot, Ling in the second slot, and then go for this. Maximilian can clear wave 1 and wave 3, can S2 on the final boss. Because of that, she has arguably the best advantage for buff block in the first place. And if I were to run any team, I would probably be running this, but I still put you in the lead rather than putting this in the lead. Like, I was doing speed lead, but I thought you needed 169 combat speed as you do in every other dungeon, but in this one you simply don't. So that is definitely a way to do it. Would you say it's like, say, but how do I get a more of like a safe team? Like, let's say I want to use a safe team, or how good is Argon in the first place? Because Argon does have the buff block as well. Is that any worth? Well, the first thing I actually tried was Argon. So if we go back to the original team that I have over here, these, you in the lead. So my first idea was actually, I'm going to put you outside of there and I'm going to put you in and make this a team. Argon damage is absolutely zoggy shit and garbage. If he had higher chances of landing his branding, because if he does branding in the very first hit, he does do enough damage, but he legit doesn't even do 50% of the HP of the boss, even with 4 debuffs. So it's just absolutely garbage, so it's not really recommended. So therefore, I didn't go for that. You could definitely go for this as a team. It does work. It's pretty strong as well. But you definitely go into multiple rotations, because this is not gonna one-shot like one wave or like one turn rotation boss. Let's call it that way. So, but how can we make things more safe? Well, it's mainly removing this one and removing that one. If you want to make it incredibly safe, and that's what I would recommend most people to actually run, something like this or this. And then, of course, you can put the lead over here. No, wait, I actually would still keep the crit rate lead. Fuck that 28 attack lead. I think that this would be the best, safest team out there right now if you don't have, well, if you just go full free to play. If you go for the first upgrade, I would go for the Brandia over the Crow. If you actually have like good runes, then you go for these two over here. That is pretty much the whole scenario that you could go for. I did also put the Tanjiro in here. And Tanjiro, some people did tell me, is pretty interesting. It does have the skill 1 of buff block, so it could be one of those units. I would not replace you with that, but I would more replace this slot over here with the Tanjiro, because it has some value of ignoring defense and that kind of stuff. You could place it over here as well, but not too sure. I think the combination with a crow and that would maybe be a little bit nice, but you could maybe placed over here or maybe placed over there. So those are the options that I now see for SF. Still, in the end, it is a Zoggy dungeon because we're still working with this one over here. Also, the slower your team is, the more interesting it is to put immunity on stuff. So if you go for this kind of setup, I would definitely recommend to put immunity on the Fran and on the Ling. If you go for this one, of course, immunity doesn't really work, and you also want to go immunity on that one, of course. So those are the 3 immunity stackers. If you do want to go for a bit of a slower run, or a bit more of a consistent run, then definitely go for those. So let's actually say, maybe we can do, I didn't actually fill in those things. Let's actually make a list of what are the best teams, and then the speed order and that kind of stuff. So let's just do this, and then save. Fast, and then just give them pluses or something. So the team that I was running was the one over here with you. Or let's actually start from fastest team to slowest team. I think that probably makes most sense. So fastest team out there is you. Let's actually put that in a little nicer right over there, and a you. So fast. Does that work? Okay, fast, triple S, safe. Let's give that just an S. Okay, let's just write in a bunch of team. God damn it. 1, 2, 3, 4, team 5, and team 6. I think that should be enough for now. So, okay, second team is team that I was running. This one. And let's also put in free to play. And then, nope. Almost, but not really. You over there, you over there, and then we add in the U. So I would give this a safe. It is a little bit better for the safetiness. It is definitely a yes over here. Fast, I would probably give it an S because you need really good runes to actually make this one shot. Safe, I would say it is a little safer, but in the end, I think it's kind of like, yeah, I think it's probably like this. Let's do same team. Can we actually copy all of this? Copy that. Thank you. That makes my life. Can we also select them at the same time? Yes, we can. That can also make my life a little bit easier. So this, we put you over here, and then we put you in here. And I would say this one. I think, I haven't tried this, but I think that this is triple S on the safe, and I think that this is triple S on the fast, maybe double S. Really depends if like you into you can one-shot the final boss. If you can, then it's this. If not, it's probably this. Wait, it's this. So this one free to play. Nope, not at all. But arguably, I would say this is best team out there. Okay, I'm kind of sitting in front of it. But yep, that's the best team out there. From there, we're going to transition more into safe teams. Or wait, maybe the Maximilian team first. So Maximilian in there. Then we still go for you and you. So let's add those in there in this position and that position. You in here. And we go for you out there as well. Well, how do we do for this? We add in these. Well, let's put you a little bit to the left. Definitely nope over there. Fast, triple S, yes, safe. I think double S as well. I think that this might be pretty much a good team too. So, but this, I think, if good rules. So yeah, all of them need kind of good ones. So let's say that these two teams will probably arguably be the best. We can make few more teams, 7 and team 8. So first of all, team 6, we're going to be using the 3 of y'all. 3 of y'all, or actually, we pretty much do this whole team. You, yes, sir. And then we also want to move all of those at the same time, right over there. And then we want to make it free to play, and we do make it free to play by putting in a few options we could go for. Let's say that we add in the Igar in this case. So if we add in the Igar, that is technically not free to play, but not as big of a nope, but this kind of nope. Fast is definitely, I think, like a maybe S. And safe, I would definitely say triple S for the safetiness. I would even give this a quadruple S for the safetiness, just to add in a little bit more emphasis on like your healing and more buff blocking and that kind of stuff. So if we then also add in all of those units for this one over here, This one, this one, this one, this one, this one. And we put those right over there at Team 7. And then we put this one, and we're gonna make it the free-to-play version of it. This, and we will remove yo ass for a U over here. And I would say in this case, would you maybe, yeah, I would actually say that the turn order would become something like this. I think that turn order does become better. I would even say for this one, well, it's the same amount of this, and it's probably just an A1 on this, and it is a yes. So yeah, I think that these are the recommended teams for SF that are out there. If you do find any other teams that you would recommend me to use as well, let me know in the comments. I would also say that this is pretty much the same as doing that, and this is maybe a bit of a wild card that I'm not 100% sure about. So these are more or less equal. This is slightly bit better. This is slightly worse. So if I don't really want to copy all of those, I would say that this is a fast of maybe a B to an A. And the safetiness becomes, to be honest, even another S because of the, the friend immunity just helps out a fair bit as well. So those are pretty much the teams that I would recommend for SF. Let me know in the comments what you're running with this. I do highly think that Hua and Lauren are pretty much irreplaceable. Those are just that stable, that strong, that good right now. That is pretty much just not anything you want to replace or replace anything else. How the run's looking like, we do get a lot of like 26-second runs. Because in the end, I would actually say for this team right then, yeah, I did put an S in there for speed. I think that is fine. Like, it's definitely faster than these current teams. But it's definitely not a triple S fast team because this thing just doesn't do jack shit of damage. And a Brandia does do it a lot better. And that will be more fixed with like either an LD or a Brandia. You kind of need that to get into the triple S team of like the speed itself. But if we look at the safetiness of the teams, let's see how many things did actually die in slower runs. Well, actually, none of these are really bad runs. We have you dying over there. That's totally fine. Like, that's also the thing. Like, mostly one dies, and then the two of them just crazy pushback, and then the run doesn't get, like, crazy long. This case as well, one dies, 50-second run, but probably these pushed it back so much that at some point nothing happened. And, yeah, that's just the main thing out there. Definitely with this kind of team where you have, like, the Ling, the Lauren, and this added in, that's why you have like a super stable run where you get like the triple or like the quadruple S safety, and that's mainly because of those 3 units in there. So guys, thanks a lot for watching for this one. Well, actually this one does already have those 3 as well. I think that this might be a safe of a double S as well, actually. Yeah, I think so. I do actually think so that this might be as well, because the 3 of them just have so much chance for buff blocks, pushbacks, and everything. I would recommend these 2 on Will though if you want to make it super safe. But yeah, that is my recommendation for anything on SF. I will be making more videos on the balance patch changes that we had. Too bad not too many PvE changes such as this. I do always like to do a little bit of PvE theory crafting. This case, it's just 1 unit, so it doesn't change all too much. But it still helps out people in arguably the most shitty dungeon in game, because it's still a very RNG heavy dungeon. And there's definitely some teams out there that you can farm very slow with. Also, if you're low on crystals and you haven't farmed artifacts for a very long time, I would maybe be looking at a team like this that you see over here in Team 6 or even the Team 7 to just farm it on the slower bit. You waste less crystals, you have to buy less packs, you can still farm all day, and it's more free to play that way, I guess. So guys, thanks a lot for watching for this one. Let me know in the comments if you want me to do any videos on any other particular unit from the balance patch or anything else. I'll see you as always in the next one. Thanks for watching. If you would like to see more guides, join the Discord and check out the content tab for the guide video archive, which contains all of the guides that you might need. Hope to see you there.